Welcome to the newest episode of The Process of Fat Loss, where our goal is to help you understand the best way to lose fat and live a healthier life. Join us as we discuss one of the toughest and most valuable topics in health and fitness. Today, we'll be looking at the GCP Carnivore diet. Now, hearing the term carnivore can make you think of a lot of things, but the first thing that comes to my mind is a classification of an animal that only eats meat. And as we'll see and talk about a little bit, that isn't exactly what carnivore means in the context of our diet. So to start us off today, Trevor is going to give some basic understanding of exactly what our carnivore diet consists of and its purpose.
I am extremely excited to talk about carnivore. This is my diet. This is what I do every day. This is how I eat. I eat carnivore 24/7. Like this is it, it's my happy place. It has literally changed how I think about food. And I feel so incredible from an inflammation standpoint. Body fat continues to decrease from it. So I'm very, very excited to talk about this. This is one of our levels of the GCP roadmaps. We've already had a podcast about keto. There'll be one coming out about optimal here soon. But this is my most excited one. So I'm really excited to talk about this. So, carnivore is an extreme elimination diet. So it's intense, like in a good way. I don't think it's that intense, but I do know it's not like a normal diet that most people go on where it's like, I don't have any rules. There are rules to this. It's a more intense version of the keto diet. And the reason it is more intense is because it is keto, because you're still in ketosis, but now you have a more restricted amount of foods that you can eat. You can't eat the fruits and the carbs anymore. So there's more restriction to that. And I don't want to scare people out with the restriction idea. The restriction is actually very freeing, if I'm being honest. So if you want to learn more about our keto diet, just go ahead and listen to our keto podcast. We'll have that attached in the links here down the road. So the goal of the carnivore diet is to control insulin and become fat adapted, just like keto. The carnivore diet is a great way to help people with autoimmune issues, overcoming eating issues, and to help people lose lots of weight. People usually think of this diet as just eating meat, but there's so many different ways to eat carnivore. We're going to teach you how to do that. This diet is as close to zero carb as you can possibly go on the spectrum of the carbohydrates.
All right, so as I alluded to before, the common definition of carnivore is not the same as our definition of the carnivore diet. So what makes the GCP carnivore diet different?
So with keto, we were a lot stricter. In our keto diet, we're way stricter than mainstream. I think I'm a little less strict on the carnivore diet because I realize I have to meet clients where they're at. And some people they are meat only. Like you can only have meat. I think I've heard of people call it the lion diet. So lion diet's like you can only eat steaks or lambs. Like that's all a lion would eat would be that, right? There's also ones that are just meat only where you can only eat meat. We'll talk about the different foods, but we're also allowing dairy and we allow in other foods that are bone broths, things that aren't just meat only. So we are a little bit different in terms of that. There's a lot of variations. You can have eggs and things that aren't meat in our diet. So not meat only, that's one of the things. And we actually do use condiments for compliancy. So there is a slight amount of carbs. So I would not say I have a zero carb diet, even though it's like for most people it would be considered. So like if I put it in MyFitnessPal, I will end up with like 1% of my diet being carbs because it's such a small, probably not even that, but the condiments I have do have just a little bit of carbohydrates in them, but that helps with compliancy because sometimes you do get a little tired of eating the same meats, so you might have different rubs and stuff you put on it that might have a little bit of carbs on it, in it, or you might use like a G Hughes barbecue sauce or something that has a little bit of carbs when you have enough of it. So there's a little bit different. We do allow things that are not perfectly carnivore, and I just want to be honest that, we are carnivore as close as you can get, but like there are people that are more extreme carnivore. But those extreme carnivores like that sometimes are harder to maintain.
So now that we know the main difference kind of between the general idea of carnivore and GCP carnivore, who should be doing the GCP carnivore diet?
People that want to lose body fat. That's probably my first category. You want to lose a decent amount of body fat, not just weight, like body fat. This is a great diet for that because the sooner you can get to like little carbs in your body, then your body can actually start utilizing carbs from fat cells. So if you can get into ketosis faster, you can stay in ketosis longer, and you can actually, your body has to become fat adapted sooner. I think, I don't have any statistical knowledge about this, but just my understanding of how the body works, I would believe that people become faster fat adapted when they have zero carbs in their system compared to keto, which has 50 grams of carbs in their system. Because I have to learn how to utilize just pure fat because I have no carbs for my body to utilize. So I have to be able to become fat adapted quicker, which then will mean my body will actually utilize body fat more because it's going to pull it from the cells. Autoimmune issues, if you can handle going carnivore, you will eliminate so many of them, or at least decrease them, and start to see like things from like even acne. Acne is huge. Depression is another category that helps out a lot because when you have plants and stuff like that in your diet a lot, it actually warps the mind in terms of like you have these chemical releases from the plants, and that's we talked about that in another podcast. I don't want to go far down that rabbit hole, but autoimmune disease, issues are a big reason to go carnivore, even more than keto, because you can eliminate all plants and clear them up even faster, and then slowly add in keto and see if those things affect you. Frequent sugar cravings. If you have sugar issues, like eliminating all carbs, because carbs are sugar, you will eliminate those sugar cravings in a very short period of time. However, you do need to stay on it long enough to make sure that those carb addictions are gone. If you enjoy protein and fat, this is the dream diet. That's why it's my dream diet. Like, that's my dream. Like, I would love to have a little fruit, but outside of that, everything else in the world, I'm fine with just eating protein and fats. People want to take back control of their eating. Like, I know a lot of people that have gone carnivore that have overcome eating issues, like really eating either on the low side of eating too little or eating too much. Both sides just really help correct that, because now they become fat adapted and they're fuller more often. And they just feel so much energy that food is like a value add to their life instead of taking away from it.
Yeah. So now we're going to dig into the details of the GCP carnivore diet a little bit more. So what are the macros that we use for this diet? And then what are some foods that we should be avoiding while on the GCP carnivore?
Macros are pretty simple for this. Those guys that don't know macros are, that's your protein, fats, and carbs. And this is going to be a percentage of your daily calories, right? So if you're on a 2,000 calorie daily diet, you're going to use these percentages of it. So 70% of that diet would be of fat in carnivore, and 30% will be of protein. People overdo protein in the carnivore diet a little bit. Fat's a really, really, really important part of carnivore. So you could probably be as high as 35% protein. Any more than that, and you're actually going to have negative long-term effects of carnivore, because a lot of the nutrients and stuff you need are going to come from fats. Becoming fat adapted is important as well. So don't overeat protein. Eating too much protein can create rabbit starvation. Rabbit starvation. I think I had to show that. Rabbit starvation. So it's like a rabbit, an actual like bouncy rabbit. Is a term called rabbit starvation. So just be a little careful with that. Foods not to eat. All carbs. I don't need to go much into that. I don't think I even need to really list, but I'll list real quick. Like, no, in this diet you'd have no fruits, no vegetables, even avocados, even though they're mainly fat, you couldn't have those because they have carbs in them. No fermented foods, even though we find them healthy, but they're not good in this diet. Toxic carbs, that's legumes, corn, breads, pastas, chocolate, mushrooms, toxic vegetables, tubers. This list will all be in the show notes, guys, if you want to see these. Or you can always join our roadmaps. Our roadmaps program, or our game change transformation program, uses these. Our roadmap master classes and our game changing transformation programs use this whole template, and we'll go dive into deep why we can't have these things in those master classes. It's super worth it. You get accountability, you get so many good things. So please look into those, or think about doing those. Toxic fats you can't have. So you can't have seed and vegetable oils, nut butters, nut milks, most nuts, and all seeds. And this is a category that gets people. It's like, well, in carnivore I can have any fat, right? Well, there's still toxic fats that aren't healthy for you. And some of these fats even have carbs in them too, so you gotta be careful with that. But in terms of that, like, no, you can't have, these are toxic fats you shouldn't have in your diet, period. Other toxic foods, you can't have alcohol in carnivore, period. Like, maybe if you're doing carnivore long term and you're okay with a day being off carnivore or whatever, totally fine. But like, to be truly carnivore, there'd be no alcohol, because that's carbs. Sugars, artificial, processed, and even natural sugars wouldn't be available. And soy and tofu wouldn't be available.
Okay, so now let's look at the other side. What food should we be eating while on the diet?
So it's going to sound like it's a super restricted list, but some of the restriction of it is very freeing, because it doesn't take as much time for food prep. I don't have to think about my meal prep that much. I know what I'm going to eat, and I know the list of the foods that I actually like. So it's actually, I find it very freeing personally. I know me and my fiance Erica, she eats a little bit more keto than carnivore, but like, we just love the idea that like, it's just like, it's so simple to do. So the proteins are going to be any variation of meat you can think of. So from beefs to lamb to pork to chicken to any other thing you can think of that's technically a meat, from like elk and venison. Bone broth is really good. Seafood is amazing as well. Some carnivore diets don't like seafood. We put seafood on our diet. Those omega-3s are really good for you. You gotta be a little careful with mercury and things of that nature. Trying to find quality food there is why some of them don't allow it, but I think there's pretty good seafood out there. Some processed meats we do allow, so like nitrate-free hot dogs or nitrate-free brats or sausages or deli meats. Try to find nitrate-free of any of those if you choose those. Those processed foods aren't that bad. I don't want you to live on those, but they're nice little things to mix up the routine a little bit. They don't cause much inflammation, but don't live on those because there's not as many nutrients in those as the main meats. Eggs are awesome as well. Please eat the yolk of the eggs. We need that saturated fat. Saturated fat is extremely important for testosterone, especially if you're male. Extremely and good for you. Sorry, it's extremely good for you, and really important, right? As well as we don't need to worry about cholesterol like we once did. Again, I need to do a podcast on this eventually, but like cholesterol is not as big a deal as it once was, especially LDL. Cholesterol doesn't mean nearly what it meant. There's not a lot of studies out there anymore that show that's been right. I don't know if I said bone broth. Bone broth's good as well. Here's the fat you cook with. So your cooking oils are going to be butter, ghee, tallow from either beef or pork, and coconut oil. If you don't know what tallow is like lard, pretty much. Coconut oil are the main things to cook with. You can get the coconut oil in a spray if you want, but otherwise I like all the other ones to be hard that you actually scoop out of. You can have dairy. Just be a little careful if you do have autoimmune disease issues. Those can usually be affected by dairy, but if you don't have those, dairy is totally fine on this diet. Whole milks are going to be good. The fattier the milk, the better. Hard cheeses, Greek yogurt. Just make sure you're getting carb-free ones on those, right? So Greek yogurts can have carbs in them if you're not careful, if you're getting some of that sugar and stuff in it. So just be smart with those. And animal fat's amazing. Like you eating, like actually eat the fat on the steak you make. Super important because that's got so many nutrients in it. Drinks, this is where I give a little leniency again. I don't think coffee is the best thing for you in terms of mold toxins, but we give some leniency because we know if we're going to win a battle, coffee's not going to be the battle we're going to win. Tea, I'd rather you get rid of alcohol than coffee. Tea, the same thing. There's mold toxins. You got to be careful with those. You got to be careful with those things are being shipped and stored. The longer they're stored, the more chance they have mold. So you got to be careful with that. Water is great. Mineral water is really good, especially around meals. It's good for digestion. We do allow condiments, but you gotta be extremely limited with these because you're not supposed to have much for carbs, and some of them do. Like Worcestershire sauce is awesome. There's no carbs in that. You can use that a ton. Yellow mustard, super low carb. Hot sauces pretty much have no carbs in them. Those are good. G. Hughes barbecue sauce and Walden Farms, they're sugar-free ones. They do have a little carbs in them, so you gotta be a little careful. I do use them from time to time if I'm really struggling, needing some. Be careful with the rubs that you're using and spices you're using because some of the rubs can have like a lot of sugar in them. So be careful with that. And coconut aminos are a really good replacement for soys.
All right, so now that we have the roadmap and the guidelines of the GCP carnivore diet, now we know what foods not to eat, what foods we should be eating, and some other things about those foods. What are some obstacles that we could experience while on this diet? And then how long should we be following this diet for?
So the biggest obstacle of all the diets we do is the carnivore, first couple of weeks of carnivore. And the obstacle is detox diarrhea and headaches. And it sucks because like I have not found a way around it. And so what I mean by that is you're going to get headaches. The headaches really come from a lack of electrolytes. We can fix the headaches. We need to increase the electrolytes that we have in our system in the first 2 weeks for sure, but probably the first couple months, and even in long term realistically, because we have cut out a lot of sodium from the processed foods, and our body relies on a lot of that sodium. So we have to now uptake our sodium because most of the non-processed foods don't have salts in them. So we have to uptake that sodium intake for our electrolytes. So we need to take somewhere between 4 to 6 grams of sodium, or I'd say really an electrolyte during the day. So you have 4 to 6 grams of sodium, and the electrolyte itself has probably 300 milligrams of potassium and some of like the other categories that we're looking for in that. So like chloride and trying to think what the other one is, potassium, magnesium as well. So a little bit of magnesium in there too. So you want to make sure they have good. So we use Element as the brand we use. We carry them in stock at the gym. If any of the guys at the gym are interested in that, that's what it's there for really, is to overcome a lot of these obstacles we have in these roadmaps. Good long-term. So but the issue with the diarrhea is can be pretty intense. And the reason is because our body is becoming fat adapted. And so it's a limit. It's now getting so much more fat. And as it's getting this fat, the body hasn't figured out how to digest that fat as well because it's been so carb focused for long. And what's happening is as our body's trying to learn how to digest that fat, it's actually pushing a lot of excess fat through, and that comes out as liquid. It comes out as diarrhea is what it comes out to be. So there's no real good way to stop that. The more carb heavy you've been, the longer that's going to last. So if you've been really carb heavy, it's going to last for like 3 or 4 weeks. If you're somebody that's not, maybe going from keto to this, it might last a few days. Maybe, on keto, you probably wouldn't have an issue with this at all if you've been keto. But like somebody that has like a lower carb intake won't have as many issues with this. Another thing is food cravings. The first 2 to 3 weeks takes a while to adjust because you're so used to having this variety of foods, and now you've restricted down to the small amount of food. You get food cravings for like sugars, and you're getting rid of all carbs, so you're having carb cravings. It takes a little bit of work, but I mean, once you get past that window, it's amazing because you have no desires for that stuff. It has a pretty strict food list. I mean, I gave you a food list there. It didn't take me very long to go through that. It took me longer to go through the non-food list than the food list. So foods can be more repetitive. So you have to find creative ways, and you have to be okay with repetitive foods. And zero alcohol consumption is just period there. People aren't going to love that, but it is an issue there. Now, when it comes to limitations, like how long you should do this diet, there's not really a true length, right? I don't think that you couldn't do carnivore forever. I will be carnivore probably forever. That's my ideal diet. However, some people do run into issues down the road for being on carnivore too long. So I'd like to say that you need to be on it for a minimum 90 days because you have to have enough time to get fat adapted, to adjust, to make sure you get results, right? And it can take anywhere from 90 to 180 days to become fat adapted. But for a lot of people, once they achieve their results that they're looking for, maybe it's to lose 10 or 40 pounds or whatever, then a lot of people probably would do really good transitioning to keto or possibly to an optimal diet than staying on carnivore because of like many other things. The restrictions can be tough for people, but also some people do have trouble sleeping after being on carnivore so long. So we have to add a little carbohydrates in the evening. So there could be some limitations there. So I would say a year, we shouldn't have any issues. It's getting in that 2-year realm that we can run into a little bit of issues. We can also supplement with those things too to fix those things if you have a coach to help you with that. If you're struggling with an autoimmune disease, I would recommend staying on this until those symptoms are completely gone. And then you'll be gone for a few months before you get off carnivore and move your way towards not back to a heavy carb. If you have an autoimmune disease, you should never go back to heavy carbs again because those carbs are what's causing the issue. So you need to get those plant toxins out of your diet forever. Many people want to re-enter the carbs, so that's why we recommend them after they've kind of reached that point of success, moving them into something else because some of them do want that variety of carbs.
All right, thanks for explaining all that, Trevor. Do you have any other tips for someone who is following this roadmap?
My first tip is make sure that you eat fatty meats. Don't lean on the lean meats. The lean meats will not help you stay full. They also will affect your ability to metabolize fat because you need more fat to be able to break down because then all of a sudden you start metabolizing protein more. It helps with hunger a ton. Eat to fullness at every meal, especially in the beginning. I want you not to be stuffed, but I want you to be full every single meal in the beginning, and probably for the long term you want to. If you want to lose more body fat, you might have to eat you might have a little hungry issues, but for the first 3 to 4 weeks, do not go hungry because that's when you lean into like wanting cravings. If you're full all the time, cravings stay really low. Drink 4,000 milligrams or 4 grams of salt every day for the first couple of weeks. Again, Element is a great tool for that because it's nice and tasty. You can eat out on this diet. It's really easy to eat out on this diet, in all honesty, but you got to just eat meat only. You might not be able to be as specific with the seed oils and stuff of that nature when you're eating out, like if you order a steak, but that's probably minutia because you're probably not eating out that often. But like you can definitely order a steak or chicken breast or something like that. You can order a burger without buns. There's a lot of options there. If you do eat out, make sure you eat plenty of food when you eat out. Meaning, like a lot of times when I eat a steak, I'll get a big steak. I'll get like a 20-ouncer, and I might get some chicken wings with it too. Because I want to make sure I'm full, so I don't have the cravings that other people have because of all the carbs that people are having around me. So I would say definitely just make sure don't be restricted by eating out. I can't do this because I eat out too much. It's really easy to eat out.
So what is your call to action for today's listeners?
I just want to let people know that we have these roadmaps, and these roadmaps are really good. We are getting incredible results on them, myself included, incredible results on these roadmaps. So I just want to let people know that they're there, and they're not just a roadmap. I mean, they are a roadmap, but there's so many tools that are involved in it, and it's not about being perfect. It's about like a journey, right? So the idea is to be 90% good at this. Carnivore, you probably need to be a little bit more if you're truly being carnivore, but the other one's like you're trying to be 90% good at what we're doing, right? So you don't have to be perfect by any means to be on these diets to get really good results and for long-term success on it. But we also have coaching. The coaching is involved in it. I mean, we have levels of that coaching, right? So the idea is like you can get one-on-one coaching, or you can get group coaching, you can get self-guided coaching. Like that's those are levels. We've built it just like our training program, where we have that levels of modification involved in it. So don't be afraid to join our program. Like, that's a really good way to get onto these diets quickly. Make sure you have the good things, and then you can stay on them long term, doing them yourself. If once you get done with coaching, you feel like you have it. There are different variations of carnivore, and each version has its purpose. Sometimes we do need to go more strict as like a meat only. Like, people that have really bad autoimmune diseases might need to go to like the lion diet, right? Which is like just beef and lamb. But you know, if you don't have those issues, we don't need to go to that strict a variation. So that's why there's a variation degree between carnivores. Again, as usual, like, these aren't short-term fixes. We believe in a process. We believe in, this is a long-term game we're playing. If you're trying to speed this up and only achieve all your nutrition results in 90 days and then go back to eating the way you were, like, this is not the diet for you. This is not the gym for you, if I'm being completely honest, because we look for long-term success. You came to us to change your life. You didn't come for me to just be like, well, just give me a quick fix. I want that magic bullet and move on. No, you came for me, and I can give you that magic bullet. I could just say, do keto for 3 months, lose all the weight, but next year you'll have it all back on. Do you feel good about that? Just like The Biggest Loser. They all gain their weight back on. It's because nobody gives them a plan for success. Well, plan for success is to know that it's not an end. There's not an end point. It's just keep working, keep working, keep working. Anybody that doesn't want to do the work, you don't want to be fit. You don't want to be healthy. You don't want those things. I'm sorry you don't, because you're not willing to do the work. The work is a long-term game, and all these roadmaps are to help you lose that body fat over long term and keep it off for the rest of your life. You can't go. I mean, you can start these diets and go back to other diets. You just put the weight back on. If you want to keep it off forever, these diets will keep it off forever.
So if people want to learn more about the GCP carnivore diet, or just carnivore in general, where would you suggest they go?
There's a lot of blogs out there. Carnivore is not a topic that you can't find a lot of things on. You can find a ton on it. There's a lot of good stuff out there as well. But I think the best way is to join our 8-week master classes or to join our transformation accountability programs. Like, one of those two options are great ways for you to really learn in depth about it, so that you can become an expert in your own life on how to integrate it in your life and get coaching. All these, you can go find any blog post in the world, but you need that accountability to actually hold you accountable to the things when the stuff gets hard, when you can't figure out what to do with this. You need that coaching, and that's what our program is about, is giving you coaching. So if you're interested in one of these programs, just let us know. Contact us. We have so many levels of it that fit everybody. It's like, there's no reason not to contact us. We can fit all financial levels. There's so many ways that we can customize it to fit what you need. So make sure you reach out and see if we're the right fit for you.
Yeah, so like Trevor said, if you're interested in learning more about this roadmap or joining one of our accountability programs or our master classes, don't hesitate to reach out. You can leave a comment, you can send us an email, or you can visit our website, and I'll have all of those linked below in the show notes, so you guys can check those out or visit our website. I hope you enjoyed the discussion on today's topic. Remember, the best time to start living healthier is today, so make sure to take action in your life right away. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please give us a review on Spotify or a written review on Apple Podcasts as well. Subscribe on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms to make sure that you guys don't miss our next episode. And then follow us on social media to stay up to date on future episodes and all the other content that we put out. If you have any ideas for topics, you can leave those in the comments or send us an email or mention them to us if you see us around the gym, just so we can get some ideas for what you guys want to hear us talk about. Thanks again for listening. I hope you will join us for the next episode of The Process of Fat Loss.
Remember, guys, there's no better time than right now to transform.